I'll give you an example. I was born in a very religious family, and there was a common thing that rich people are evil. By the way, if rich people are evil, are you ever going to become rich if you truly believe that? No.
Definitely
Oh,
not.
you're gonna sabotage yourself before you actually get there, subconsciously. You're gonna sabotage yourself before you actually get there, subconsciously. And like you said, most of the studies show about 93% of your decisions are subconscious and your actions are subconscious. Only 7% are you're truly in charge of only 7% of your life. So if and when I was growing up, the thought is that it's not necessarily bad to have money, but you really should have sufficient or enough for your needs.
Mm. Mm.
And I had completely forgotten about this, and I was in business growing that first business, and we got to $10 million a year in revenue, which was awesome, but then I kept hitting it, never got past it. Years, hitting it, never got past it. But here's the other interesting that kept happening. It didn't matter how much money I made in terms of revenue. Guess what happened with what I was taking home? Every month, I had exactly enough to cover my needs, and maybe a few dollars more, sometimes a few dollars less. And I'm like, why in the world do I have this big business that's making all this money, but I'm actually not even a dollar more profitable than I was doing $1 million a year? And I realized something. I have enough to cover my needs. This was a belief that was ingrained in me when I was super young, and it's something that's spoken about a lot, in my home when we talked about it, to have sufficient or enough for your needs. And I realized that I was living exactly the belief that I had. So I had to do 3 things. Number 1, I had to recognize that this was actually happening, that this was a belief in me that
Mm.
I'm never gonna, profit-wise or take-home pay-wise, I'm never going to make more than, a dollar. If I have a dollar at the end of the day and I have all my bills covered, then guess what? I'm doing great
Mm.
because I'm acting in accordance with my belief. So that's the first thing is I had to recognize it. Now the second thing I had to do was question it or refute it.
Mm.
Like, is this true that my obligation is to have sufficient for my needs? I remember a coach told me one time, and he said, "Eric," this was back then, and he said, "Eric, there are things that God cannot call you to because of the beliefs that you have about money, because you don't have the income to change the world. Can you make less impact or more impact with more money?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Wow." And that statement broke my belief, and I realized that the story was BS because it was just a belief that wasn't even my belief that I had learned and I was living, and I realized that I can change the world at such a greater level if I have tens, if not hundreds of $1 million to make. Imagine the impact and the microphone. Your microphone can get super big at that point. How much more can I change the world? And so the third thing I had to do, well, I had to like challenge the story and ask myself, is this story true? No, it's not true. Like, if I really want to make a change in the world, having sufficient for my needs is not evil. Or is not the right way to do it, and having more than my needs is not evil, I guess is how I should put it. And so then I had to change the story, and I had to sort of rewire that by asking if the story was true, and then changing the story from, "Okay, well, if I'm extremely wealthy, can I help more people? Is
Mm.
it my responsibility, honestly, to make more money so I can provide more jobs, if I can impact the world?" And I'm an impact-driven person. Is wealth going to make me evil? Well, no, it's not. So all of a sudden, I had to sort of rewire that belief